The poet Rumi wrote, "Gamble everything for love if you are a true human being. Half-heartedness does not reach into majesty." Over the past 5 years, I gambled. I gambled with my wealth, security, reputation, my heart and soul. I gambled it all for love. And even though I was taken to my knees and confronted with my deepest fears over and over again, I discovered, as Rumi also wrote, the wound is the place that the light enters you. And now I'm about to share a very deep and personal story with you about love, loss, and passion. And because I'm a writer, I wrote it for you from the heart. And so I'm going to read it to you. It's something that I've kept from you over the last few years because, as you'll soon understand, it's been very difficult to talk about from an emotional standpoint as well as a legal one. But it's time. Because of your loyalty, I owe you complete transparency. It's time to be honest and share my journey to love. On a very fateful day in June of 2013, there was a catastrophic car accident about 2 miles from my home in California. It shattered the course of my life and in a split second caused me to question everything I thought I knew, especially love. And at times during the past 4 years, I've stumbled, stammered, and pussyfooted around half-heartedly, all at once feeling swallowed by fear and yet pushed along somehow by pure passion. And in the end, I did gamble everything for love, and in the process, learned the true meaning of it, and with that, so much about life itself. A year before the crash, I fell deeply in love with a beautiful young man from the wrong side of the tracks. He was tall and handsome with a perfect smile, big sexy hands, and the most adorable laugh I've ever known. He was spontaneous, passionate, wild, and raw. He sang in the shower, wore his heart on his sleeve, and did not care to pretend. He was no saint, but I loved and cared about him so much that I married him despite our vast differences. Age, socioeconomic, cultural, you name it, and despite the fact that I thought I actually never wanted to marry again. But I missed him even when I went out for a run. When he kissed me, I was completely at his mercy, and I have never had sex like that before. He took me to where I'd never been, to a no-holds-barred, confident, passionate place of wild synchronicity. "All I can give you is love," he said when I challenged him constantly about ambition, contribution, values, and security. Just love me and give me time." So I checked in with my soul and dug deep into my intuition, and I ultimately made a divinely guided decision purely from the heart. I married him in a cheeky and passionate Las Vegas wedding. What could possibly go wrong? As you may have guessed, one of the people involved in that accident just 7 months after our wedding was my beautiful man. He was physically hurt, but he recovered. What is so far irreparable is his anguish, the blame, and the shattering criminal charges filed against him. My beautiful man was charged with killing someone. And I won't go into how that's even possible for somebody to be charged with murder from a car accident, except to say that it is in California, because this video is not about the criminal justice system, or about blame, or about crime and punishment. This video is only about love. Only love. I'm also not going to discuss the other lives forever altered by this tragedy. Those living are at liberty to tell their own stories. This is mine, and my story is a love story. But first, I had to be taken to my knees. The earth-shattering stress that resulted from the criminal charges, civil lawsuits, media attention, blame, massive uncertainty, and sheer terror about what the future held tore us apart. I was hemorrhaging money to criminal and civil defense attorneys, hospitals, doctors, bail bondsmen, and therapists. "Do not be seen in public," they said. "Open your door to no one. Trust no one. Cease doing business, and whatever you do, do not publish your book. You could lose everything. Fly under the radar, hide in shame, and talk to no one for 2 years," they said. I was terrified. Huge money was leaving and none coming in. And I'm ashamed to admit that I feared losing my money more than death or losing my beautiful man. So the resentment built. Should I stay or should I go? We began to fight. Nasty, furious, treacherous fights. My rage, resentment, and fear manifested in words so vitriolic they could strip paint off walls. I'd kick him out, he'd come back, and then he'd leave again. We said things to each other that few could ever recover from. It was, as the Indian mystic Osho wrote, when you love a person, all fear disappears. And when you are afraid, all love disappears. I had chosen fear over love. And then the bail was unexpectedly increased to $1 million. We held each other outside the courtroom, howling in anguish for all the missed months of love and affection, for all the days when we wanted to hurt each other rather than protect each other, the months wasted keeping score and spent in rage and resentment instead of unconditional love. I watched as my beautiful man was handcuffed and taken away. I let them take him. I needed to use that money to live on and to continue to pay for his defense. The first time I saw him shuffling into the courtroom in prison orange, his hands and feet shackled with chains, I couldn't breathe. My heart broke and my soul felt like it would never recover. I would go home alone at night and yell and scream at myself in the mirror for what I had become. Powerless, beaten down, terrified. But that wasn't me. So I vacillated, at times feeling like I could take on the state of California and win. A fearless lioness who would stop at nothing to protect her family. I'd figure out a way to make more money, to fight for him, to free him. So I read more books, prayed more, slowly opened my business back up despite the legal warnings, hired world-renowned coaches, and I studied. I studied faith, the power of surrender, the true meaning of love, my relationship with money, the power of the mind, and human psychology. As my knowledge and faith grew, so did my optimism. That is, until one day, a jury convicted my beautiful man of manslaughter. Had they been in the same courtroom that I'd sat in every day for almost 2 months? Had they heard the same evidence? Did they not understand the meaning of reasonable doubt? It was almost impossible to believe, and now he faced 20 years to life in prison. For weeks, I didn't know how I'd ever get out of the darkness. Sorrow pulled me under, and despair wouldn't let me come up for air. Everything I believed was called into question again. My faith, carefully examined soul, the philosophies spent decades in the making. But because of those very things, and the non-judgmental, unwavering love and support of my family, my mentor, and some friends, I dug deeper. And the divine source answered, I'm here, Jackie. Everything is either a miracle or nothing is. What are you going to believe? There is still so much to learn on your journey to love, so let go. Surrender. Choose love over fear. It's all unfolding as it should. Over the years, I had brutally challenged my beautiful man about his troubled past, different values, and poverty mentality. I had judged his worthiness, choices, his ingrained paradigm so radically different from my own. But what made mine right and his wrong? After all, he seemed to know so much more about love than I did. He loved with a passionate heart wide open with what seemed like no fear of vulnerability. It was as though his heart beat dangerously outside of his chest. He made love as though it was his last act. As long as it was legal between consenting adults, there were no limits. I am no longer interested in love without that kind of passion. And he loved me wherever I was at any given moment. It's tough to love people where they are without requiring them to change. But isn't that what true love is? And to love does not mean we have to live with someone, agree with them, or condone their behavior. So it was with a sledgehammer to the heart that I learned the true meaning of unconditional love and of unbridled passion. That it's not my version of love or yours. Love just is. I had to love somebody I couldn't have despite the fact that he loved me back, to learn that love does not mean to own, to possess, to control, or to agree with. Real love is freedom. It cannot coexist with fear or without forgiveness. It's about letting go of all expectations, and it's about loving passionately without fear of any kind. Love does not keep score. That was a big one for me. Real love can be fleeting yet deep, brief yet life-altering. It doesn't have a timeline. And of course, the conclusion to this love story has not yet been written. There is still hope for my beautiful man, and we are working on it. Although one of the most important lessons learned on this gut-wrenching journey is that I do not have control over his destiny. Only he does. I can love and support him, but his future depends on his beliefs, his faith, and his decisions going forward. The most harrowing and yet enriching journey of self-discovery has led me to a life of peace, deep self-knowledge, confidence, and faith. I fear absolutely nothing. Nothing. And that is the most extraordinary thing of all. That has opened the door for me for so much more love and success. But I had to be almost taken out by my deepest fear in order to get to this point, and I wouldn't swap that for anything. Everything is a miracle, and I let life and love unfold naturally. I trust myself and the spirit that guides me. I'm letting new love in, and I am happier now than ever before. My beautiful man and I are still deeply connected with a love and understanding inexplicable to most. Despite his past and the fact that society has deemed it necessary to throw him away, he will always be worthy of my love. He taught me that. We do not know the private pain or the wisdom of those that we discard. Saying yes to the most broken and troubled man I've ever met has led me ever closer to self-mastery. By turning my life upside down and inside out, this experience taught me what everybody spends their life seeking, the meaning of love, and with that, the meaning of life itself. When faced with a choice of love or fear, always choose love. I am so very deeply grateful that I had the courage to go along for the ride.